So let's say you're the CEO of a company right now. How would you implement this strategy and make it happen so that there is a really tangible DE&I strategy in place?
Yeah, well, first off, it has to be in partnership with the people. And by the people, I mean employees, those who work on site, as well as those who are working from home or working remotely. That's going to be really important. Um, Too many well-intended leaders will go and make policy or develop strategy without meaningful input from the people who are actually going to be affected by those policies and strategies. So step one would be to bring folks to the table, colleagues, teammates to the table, including those who work remotely. Also, I think part of what the strategy requires is thinking about what are the existing pathways to advancement and to pay equity and so on within the company. And then to rethink those pathways through the prism of remote work, right? Like, here's what it has taken, historically to advance in our company. Now let's rethink what that means for people who we don't see in the office, 3 days a week or 5 days a week or ever, right? Those are two things that immediately come top of mind.
Looking forward, are you optimistic about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace in 2023 as we sit right on the cusp of the new year?
I am absolutely optimistic. It is that optimism that, fuels me every day in the things that I write, certainly the courses that I teach here at USC, and definitely in the work that I do with the dozens and at times hundreds of companies and organizations. But that optimism has to be met with strategy, right? I think one of the things that I attempt to do is help leaders develop robust, sustainable DE&I strategies, not just programming. So if 2023 is going to look different than 2022 and prior years, it's going to be because business leaders finally took seriously the responsibility of developing sustainable strategy around DE&I.
We talked about business leaders, but how can employees really hold these business leaders accountable for this?
Sure. I think employees have so much more power than they recognize. Um, you know, Business leaders don't really like scandals or public facing stories that, call attention to failures within the business. I think that employee resource groups and, other groups of employees ought to come together and think about how they can leverage their collective voices and flex their collective muscle to help leaders understand how vulnerable the business is to public scrutiny on its failure to enact the DE&I values that it espouses. So in other words, what I'm suggesting, I'm not necessarily calling for, diverse employees to, gather and protest. What I am suggesting, though, is that when they speak in a unified voice, one that is serious, it is more likely to compel leaders to act much more swiftly and hopefully much more strategically and sustainably.